What I can tell you is that you are 10 times more likely to have a case of COVID if you are unvaccinated compared to if you are vaccinated and boosted. You are 20 times more likely to die of COVID if you are unvaccinated compared to if you're vaccinated and boosted.
It means that instead of the vaccine being able, instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person to person, spreading and spreading, sickening some of them, but not all of them. And the ones that it doesn't sicken don't know they have it, and then they give it to even more people because they didn't recognize they were, right? Instead of the virus being able to hop from person to person to person, potentially mutating and becoming more virulent and drug resistant along the way, now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else. It cannot use a vaccinated person as a host to go get more people. That means the vaccines will get us to the end of this.
Well, it looks like conservatives might have been right. According to new research from Washington University, Omicron may be less deadly than the seasonal flu, and may be 100 times less deadly than the Delta variant. We are getting new information from the experts that this virus may not be all what it seems. Eventually, we may get a variant that is mild and super contagious. Omicron seems to fit the bill. It seems like it's going to spread rapidly and effectively inoculate the population because everyone will get a mild Omicron variant and then people will build antibodies. Things are not getting better, folks. Things are actually getting worse. In fact, in Germany, they just enacted new COVID restrictions. Double vaccinated people, in other words, fully vaccinated individuals, are no longer allowed to go to cafes and restaurants unless you're boosted. Germany enacts new COVID restrictions. Double vaccinated are no longer allowed to enter cafes and restaurants without taking any tests. However, if you're boosted, you got the booster shot, you're allowed to go to the restaurants. Everyone said this would happen. They're moving the goalposts. And this is yet another thing that many people have been predicting. I want to take you to the Daily Mail. Could Omicron be even less deadly than the seasonal flu? Scientists believe the ultra-infectious strain may kill 100 times fewer people than Delta. The mortality rates were already similar to influenza before the variant emerged. This is information from researchers, from UK advisors, and from a Washington University with real scientists. Analysis shows that COVID killed 1 in 33 people who tested positive at the peak of the devastating second wave last January, compared to just 1 in 670 now. But experts believe the figure could be even lower because of Omicron. Researchers at Washington University were modeling the next stage of the pandemic, and they expect Omicron to kill up to 99% fewer people than Delta. This is another hint it could be less deadly than the flu. According to the CDC, Omicron cases could fall just as quickly as they rose. So they're basing this off of what happened in South Africa. So they go on to say, despite the astronomical rise in Omicron-related COVID cases nationwide, there is hope that the number will fall just as fast. Dr. Rochelle Walensky, the director of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, said Friday at a media briefing, the rise and fall of COVID diagnoses has historically been shown as waves, but Walensky suggested the Omicron surge in the US may be visualized more as an ice pick, with a dramatic rise and fall in cases similar to South Africa, which is past its Omicron stage. Now this makes a lot of sense to me. It could be that we get a massive outbreak of Omicron, it's fairly predictable, and then the cases rapidly fall off. But the problem is that you have governments around the world freaking out. They think that, oh, COVID is COVID. This is just as bad as the first variant. I do not think that's the case, and neither do the scientists. However, there are very serious consequences for this because, like what happened in Germany, oh, being fully vaccinated, meaning you've been vaccinated twice, is no longer enough. Now they want you to get boosted. They're moving the goalposts. Jennifer Johnson, she says, I just don't understand why I am triple vaxxed and unable to do anything. I believe she is referring to the fact that despite her being fully vaccinated and boosted, she's still not allowed to, I guess, go out to restaurants, to go shopping, to engage in normal life. I don't know if she's from the UK. I don't know if she's from America. But we do know that in places like Australia and Germany, they have severe lockdown measures. Australia is the worst. They're literally putting people in camps camps if they're even suspected of being sick. The reason this is so serious is because not everyone can actually get the darn vaccine. Here from Mass Live, Nicole Coughlin, who believes in science and the effectiveness of the vaccine, cannot roll up her sleeve for a second dose, as she's repeatedly told the state it could kill her. Massachusetts is on the verge of firing a partially COVID-vaccinated state worker who sought a medical waiver after suffering an allergic reaction to the first shot. 3 medical doctors have told her that she should not receive another shot because she had an adverse allergic reaction, and it could kill her. This is the problem, folks. You see so many of these Democrats and these politicians, and they're saying, get the shot. We don't care. You got a health problem? Who cares? So basically, she's gonna be fired, has been suspended. She goes on to say, quote, "I'm so bitter and mad. It's so wrong." Coughlin, a licensed social worker and DDS service coordinator, told Mass Live in late December, quote, "I refused to resign because this was not my doing. I did not ask for this. I did not choose this." Late Tuesday afternoon, the state government chose Coughlin's fate for her, once again denying her plea for a medical exemption under Governor Charlie Baker's COVID vaccine mandate. And that's what this is all about. Tyranny. The state, the politicians, the government, literally do not care if you die. They do not care if you have an adverse reaction. They don't care. They want to force you to do a medical procedure. This is wrong. This is wrong. This woman wants to get vaccinated. She's not an anti-vaxxer, and neither are the people who are anti-mandate. Mandates are wrong. You shouldn't be able to force someone to undergo a medical procedure against their will. More importantly, you shouldn't punish someone because medically they can't get the procedure. These stupid politicians, this stupid mentality, it's authoritarianism, it's fascism, and it's wrong.
Well, that's one of the more disturbing things. The opposite of that is one of the more disturbing things about this pandemic is how people have just decided, because they're scared and because they want a solution, that the pharmaceutical companies have their best interests at heart and that they're not these machines that are designed to make money. And they sell drugs, and the drugs are often beneficial, but their main goal is to make money. And if they can fudge the data, if they can move the numbers around, if they can delete negative consequences.
Pfizer is one of the most criminal pharmaceutical organizations in the world based on their past legal history and fines. What do those fines include? Bribing physicians. Okay? It is a cost-benefit analysis in the pharmaceutical industry about misbehavior. They are not grounded in the ethical principles that you and I, as average people, believe in. They don't live in that world. As you appropriately point out, they are about profit, return on investment. And furthermore, the overlords that own them, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, etc., these large, massive funds that are completely decoupled from nation states, have no moral core. They have no moral purpose. Their only purpose is return on investment. Our government is out of control on this, and they are lawless. They completely disregard bioethics. They completely disregard the federal common rule. They have broken all the rules that I know of, that I've been trained on for years and years and years. These mandates of an experimental vaccine are explicitly illegal. They are explicitly inconsistent with the Nuremberg Code. They're explicitly inconsistent with the Belmont Report. They are flat out illegal, and they don't care. And the only thing standing between us, and it's too late for many of our colleagues, including my, the unfortunate colleagues in the DOD. Hopefully we're going to be able to stop them before they take our kids.
What's wrong? What do you mean by the DOD?
The mandated vaccines for all personnel.
They're mandated for everyone in the DOD?
Yeah. What's going on in the White House is a whole another hour's talk.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. They removed you for not going along with whatever the tech narrative is, because tech clearly has a censorship agenda when it comes to COVID, in terms of treatment, in terms of the whether or not you are promoting what they would call vaccine hesitancy. They can ban you for that. They can ban you for, in their eyes, what they think is a justifiable offense. And they're doing this, and I don't know who these people are that are doing this, but they're doing this. One of the most important things about you reading out your history like that is to one of the most qualified people in the world to talk about vaccines.
Well, thank you for that. I think that's... So one way that some people put it is, and of course since this has happened, I've been contacted by multiple lawyers that are looking at filing a suit, just like Alex Berenson has one against Twitter. And the point is made just what you just made. So the point that I think is kind of succinct on this is, if my voice, if there's no merit to my voice being in the conversation, whether it's true or not, whether I'm factually correct or not, let's park that just for a minute. Whether or not I'm right in everything I say, and I freely admit, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. It's one of my core points, is people should think for themselves. And I try really hard to give people the information and help them to think, not to tell them what to think. Okay? But the point is, if it's not okay for me to be part of the conversation, even though I'm pointing out scientific facts that may be inconvenient, then who can be allowed? And whether you're in the camp that says I'm a liar and I didn't invent this technology despite the patents, and there's a whole cohort of that, no one can dispute that I played a major role in the creation of this tech, and virtually all other voices that have that background have conflicts of interest, financial conflicts of interest. I think I'm the only one that doesn't. I'm not getting any money out of this. So remember, looping back, I talked about the interconnectedness at the board level between Pfizer and Thomson Reuters.
Yes. Okay.
Thomson Reuters has become the fact checker of choice for determining, I quotes fact checker, right? And so we can go into the Facebook lawsuit that recently broke that whole story open. But Thomson Reuters is tied to Pfizer. They have common corporate ownership. And they are the fact checker of Twitter now. They're integrated. Okay? So it's Thomson Reuters is making the decision, which has connections to Pfizer, about what information will be allowed to be discussed on Twitter.
That is crazy. It's so crazy to even hear. And I don't know how we ever pull out of this mess. I mean, I think we are at a 45-degree downward angle headed into a mountain. I really do. It's so strange to me that no one's up in arms about this, other than a few people that have been censored, and a few people that have these opposing viewpoints that are deemed to be something that can't be discussed.
Well, I want to get to underreported stories as well. Jan?
For me, I mean, my kids hear me rant about this every day, so I may as well tell you guys. It's the crushing impact that our COVID policies have had on young kids and children. By far, the least serious risk for serious illness. But I mean, even teenagers, a healthy teenager has a 1 in a million chance of getting and dying from COVID, which is way lower than dying in a car wreck on a road trip. But they have suffered and sacrificed the most, especially kids in underrepresented, at-risk communities. And now we have the Surgeon General saying there's a mental health crisis among our kids. The risk of suicide attempts among girls now up 51% this year. Black kids nearly twice as likely as white kids to die by suicide. I mean, school closures, lockdowns, cancellation of sports. You couldn't even go on a playground in the DC area without cops scurrying, shooing the kids off. Tremendous negative impact on kids, and it's been an afterthought. Yeah. It's hurt their dreams, their future, learning loss, risk of abuse, their mental health, and now with our knowledge, our vaccines, if our policies don't reflect a more measured and reasonable approach for our children, they will be paying for our generation's decisions the rest of their lives. And that, to me, is the greatest underreported story of the past year.